Blessed day, everyone, and welcome to Us When Lightning Strikes. If this is your first time joining this circle, welcome. My name is Grace, and I'll be your host. Today, we're going to be going over part 2 of the third teaching of the grandfathers, which is Respect, as taught by Buffalo. And it's going to be a little bit of a brutal journey today because we are going to be looking at how humanity as a whole measures up to not only respect, but humility, honesty, and any of the other 7 teachings that make their way into this. So in order to understand where we are, we need to go backwards and see how we got here. And we're not going to go into massive detail because we don't have hundreds of years to do that, but this land that is called North America in this time was, well, and still is, Turtle Island. And Turtle Island was inhabited by the indigenous peoples for hundreds and thousands of years before the white colonial settlers, peoples came here and refused to go home. And so ultimately, as we know in both written history and that which has been intentionally omitted, they took this land by force, which obviously is dishonest, arrogant, and disrespectful. In doing this, they estimatedly killed 100 million native peoples, along with millions of buffalo, which also is obviously complete disrespect and disregard for not only human life, but our relatives' lives. So, in their arrogance above and beyond all of that, they decided to proclaim themselves to be the founding fathers of this land, which, you know, how can you be the founding fathers of something that already existed, and on top of that, land that was already founded by other peoples? So we can kind of see how this is played out in current times. And, you know, that was just sort of the beginning of the foundation that these peoples put in place that has grown and morphed and turned into what we now have. If we stay in the past, we can see continued disrespect and complete disregard for human life with our black-skinned brothers and sisters who were put into slavery under these same white peoples. And, you know, they were stolen from their homeland. They were brought here and sold, for goodness sakes. And, you know, it was actually legal for these white peoples to do whatever they wanted to our black-skinned brothers and sisters. I mean, they could kill them, beat them, starve them. It really didn't matter what they did. They were considered property. They weren't even really considered people. So these 2 things alone are enough for us to see the foundation that these colonial white peoples brought in terms of their thoughts of being supreme beings. And this is in place to this day. So this is just a huge disrespect for human life of anyone other than white people. And a complete and total act of arrogance that continues to this day. So in current times, we can still see the disrespect for human life. I mean, how have we gotten to the place where it's acceptable for people to be homeless and hungry and not have enough. And as long as your little blip in the world is hunky-dory, you know, you're not really giving care and consideration to your human relatives, much less your relatives in the natural world. So we're not doing a really good job here of being respectful of both human life and the lives of our relatives. If we move on to the land, our great Mother Earth, how are we treating her? It's pretty obvious how we're treating her if the amount of garbage and pollution is in a reflection of our treatment. Obviously, this is not respectful. And, you know, it's been this way, you know, again, for hundreds of years, and it just gets progressively worse. And this land gives us everything that we need, literally everything that we need. And this taking mentality that these white colonial peoples put in place when they took Turtle Island from the indigenous peoples by force and put their, you know, agendas and foundations in place that we're living with right now, this taking mentality has just continued and escalated year after year. And that's all we do is take and take and take and take and take. And this is absolutely disrespectful, number one. And number two, this is not sustainable. It's absolutely not sustainable. And really needs to stop because these resources are not unlimited. So we obviously have room for improvement with our respect for this land, our great Mother Earth. If we go on and we look at the waters, we see the same issues that we have with the land. Mass pollution, oil spills, gas spills. And this isn't our relatives doing this. I mean, we're not seeing whales and dolphins swimming about, tossing garbage into the waters. This is us. This is humanity. And, you know, I don't know what we're thinking because water is quite literally life. Literally life. There is not a living thing that can live without water. And so in destroying our water, I mean, ultimately we're destroying ourselves. In destroying this land, ultimately we're destroying ourselves. I mean, we're not escaping this. Whatever we do to this world, we do to ourselves. And so this is a reality that we need to wrap ourselves around and start doing better. If we look at how we treat our relatives, and this is, you know, countless numbers of beings, how many of our relatives are extinct now at the hands of humankind? How many of our relatives have been brought to the brink of extinction at the hands of humankind? Countless. I don't even know that we could probably come up with an accurate number. And this is again because we have no respect for life. You know, we don't even have respect for human life, much less life beyond that. And if we look at our more domesticated relatives, if we want to call them that, our cow relatives, chicken relatives, turkey relatives, pig relatives, the subjects of all this industrialized farming, how are we treating them? It's pretty obvious. I mean, the conditions that our relatives are living in are more often than not extremely horrendous. I mean, they're living in cramped quarters, in their own filth, in fear, unloved, uncared for, while they sit there, most of them not even being outside or feeling the ground beneath their feet in many instances, waiting to die, waiting for somebody to come slaughter them. And how is this respectful? It's not. And from what we've learned about Buffalo, Buffalo made a choice to sacrifice itself for the people. And we have taken that choice away from our relatives. They have no choice. They're just grown to be slaughtered, and that's it, so that they can end up in our grocery stores, labeled hamburger, and pot roast, and filet mignon, and pork chops, and any other number of things. And this takes us to our complete disrespect and disconnect with our food. When you don't have to take a life, you really don't understand the respect that being absolutely deserves for giving its life for you. And so this disconnect with our relatives and our food, understanding that all of these beings were alive and died to put all that meat in these grocery stores. There's a complete disconnect in this. And beyond that, we are so incredibly wasteful that it is obscene how much food we throw away. And not only is this wastefulness disrespectful to our relatives who have died, it's disrespectful to our human relatives who don't have enough, who are going hungry and or starving. So, the disrespect is just profound in pretty much everything, anywhere you look. So, these are just a few topics to contemplate and think about, and it's more than obvious that we have a lot of work to do here in terms of respect and honesty and humility, quite frankly. So we could go on and on and on about any number of things until the end of time, basically, because there's that much to talk about in terms of where we have significant room for improvement. But that's probably enough for today, because this is some pretty heavy stuff and sad. Really, really sad. The good news is that we can turn this around. We can change all of this if we choose to do so, and we work together collectively towards the same goals. So I thank you for joining me today on the channel where lightning is bound to strike. Until we come together again in the circle, please be well.